This presentation will look at how the money supply in an economy can be changed. We'll be looking here at how we can really increase the money supply, but everything that is said in this presentation can be put into reverse if we want to decrease the money supply. But let's look at the money supply first of all and what it is. What do we mean by the supply of money in the economy? Well, money and the amount of money in the economy can be understood in three different categories. So what we call money is firstly deposits in people's bank accounts. These are just numbers on a screen. The second part of money is cash in people's pockets. That's notes and coins. And the third part of money is the least talked about. It's the thing that we have least experience of as ordinary people, which is the reserves held by commercial banks at the central bank. Now this takes some explanation. When you or I have some money that we don't need, we deposit it in a bank. That is our reserve in our bank. When Barclays Bank or HSBC or Lloyds wants to deposit money, being a bank, they need another bank to deposit it in. And they put their money in the central bank. So this is money that belongs to the commercial banks. And it is deposited at the Bank of England. So this is also a part of money, what we call money supply. So there are three parts to money: deposits, cash, and reserves of commercial banks at the central bank. Now, we first of all have to understand how we can change the money supply by looking at this word, the monetary base. The monetary base includes two of the elements that we defined as money. It includes cash, and it includes the reserves of the commercial banks at the central bank. So these two elements make up what we call the monetary base. What if the central bank wanted to do something to change the money supply? What's the first thing it would do? Well, the first thing it would do is to change the monetary base, either up or down, depending on what it wanted to happen to the money supply. How would it do this? Well, the fact is that commercial banks like HSBC always have a supply of government bonds that they have bought previously, when the government issued them to borrow money. The central bank can buy back these government bonds at any time. And when it wants to change the monetary base, this is exactly what it does. It buys back the bonds held by commercial banks, the government bonds held by commercial banks. This is called an open market operation. So imagine that the central bank creates 100 million extra pounds. Notice I say creates. The central bank is the only body in the economy that can create new money. So if it creates 100 million new pounds and uses them to buy back government bonds, what does that do to HSBC? Well, HSBC suddenly now has 100 million pounds more money than it did. This is new money that has been created and paid to HSBC by the central bank, the Bank of England. What is HSBC going to do with this 100 million pounds that it suddenly now has? Well, it's going to do what you or I would do if we suddenly were presented or given 100 million pounds. We'd deposit it in our bank. In this case, HSBC deposits the 100 million at the Bank of England, the central bank. So, the reserves of HSBC at the central bank have suddenly gone up, and this is part of what we call the monetary base. So the monetary base has now increased via what the central bank did, which was an open market operation. So the central bank, using this open market operation, has increased the monetary base. So now HSBC has 100 million extra pounds. What's it going to do? Well, it's actually going to start making new loans with that 100 million. And when it makes loans, some of those loans come back to HSBC in the form of deposits. Because when HSBC lends money to a customer of HSBC, that customer may pay that money to another person who may also be a customer of HSBC. So that person, when they receive the payment, will deposit the money back with HSBC. This is a very crucial part of the money creation mechanism. Because what it means is that HSBC can lend the money not once, but several times. Every time it lends the money, some of the money comes back as a deposit and is lent again. It comes back again and is lent again. Comes back again and is lent again. Now this part of the system is called the money multiplier. So what we now see is that when we want to change the money supply, step one is to change the monetary base. We do this with an open market operation. What happens is that a bank like HSBC will receive a phone call from the central bank saying, we'd like to buy back some of your government bonds. If HSBC agrees, they will receive money from the central bank and they will hand over some government bonds to the central bank. This is new money that HSBC now has, and the monetary base has gone up. HSBC will start now making loans with the 100 million, but it won't just lend the money once but several times, so that the amount of money in the economy will rise not by 100 million, but by some multiple of 100 million, and the money supply will rise much more than 100 million. So this is how the money supply is actually controlled. The central bank increases the monetary base, first of all, and then allows the commercial banks, using that larger monetary base, to make new loans several times. And this expands the money supply very much. So, this is how it works. Money supply is controlled partly by the central bank and partly by the commercial banks. The central bank just starts off the whole process. In fact, it probably just accounts for maybe 20% of the change in the money supply. Most of the change in the money supply is caused by the commercial banks making new loans. So they are the major influence. The commercial banks are the major influence on the money supply. So this is how we change the money supply. This presentation has basically shown how the money supply can be increased, but of course if we put everything into reverse, we can see how the money supply can be decreased also. Normally, however, we don't decrease the money supply. We just increase it in line with GDP. So we make sure that as the GDP of a country grows, the money supply grows with it.